tragic as they were, those numbers. But the governor, as I said, was here with us in spirit, and now she wants to be here in person. So I'll turn it over to my good friend, Governor Maura Healey.
Thanks, Mayor. Good morning. I just want to reiterate everything the mayor said about the incredible work of all of public safety in the Fall River community. The fire department, police department, EMS, EMA, there are a lot of volunteers who appeared on scene. And were it not for the heroic work, brave work of these men and women who showed last night, particularly our fire and police and EMS, we would have seen much greater loss of life. As you can see, this is a fairly massive structure, massive facility. It housed nearly 70 people, thank God the vast majority of them were able to be taken out. Most of them were people who needed help, as you see from some of the footage and what I've seen. These are people who were not able to move themselves. They were not mobile themselves, and therefore the work that fire and police and EMS did to get people out was truly amazing. I'm also grateful that the 5 firefighters who were treated at the hospital have been released. I'm glad for their safety. I just want to say to the families and friends of those who perished, I offer my condolences, deepest condolences and sympathy on behalf of the Commonwealth for this tragic loss. We lost 9 folks last night in this terrible tragedy, and our hearts and our sympathies are with their families. I have pledged to the mayor and to the people of Fall River that my administration will do everything we can to offer support and assistance in this time. I know the teams here in the mayor's office and his folks have done a tremendous job getting people to their place of shelter down at the center. We'll probably go down there next, and very much in the process of now looking to rehouse this vulnerable population. But we'll continue to keep you updated. As we know, this matter is under investigation by the state DFS, and we'll provide updates as we receive them. But again, my heartfelt thanks and gratitude, deepest gratitude to police, to fire, to EMS, and to all the first responders who showed up last night and worked through the night to save so many lives. We are so grateful to all of them. And again, our deepest sympathies to family and friends of those who perished in this terrible, tragic fire. Thank you.
So we really don't have any updates from the last time we spoke. I just was fortunate to meet Governor Healey and speak with her, and I look forward to forming a relationship in the coming months to make sure that the firefighters, like I spoke before, firefighters and other public safety, EMS and police, have the resources they need to cope with this tragedy and continue their careers and be able to retire happy, healthy lives. So she's made a commitment to help out with anything that the state can provide for us, and we look forward to working with her on that. I really don't, I'm more than welcome if there are any questions that I could answer, but I don't think I'm going to be able to provide much more than we did this morning.
Any sense of any sense of the source of the fire? Sorry.
It's all still under investigation. Like I said earlier, this is a very extensive investigation. It's going to take a lot of time, and we need to get the facts right before we release them. So we ask for your patience with that.
Where it might have come from, maybe where it might have started?
Again, same, under investigation, and we really need to make sure that we get that right before we release it. What time? Shortly after 9:30 last night.
Governor Healey, what specific resources or funding is the state going to be able to give Fall River in this tragedy?
Well, the relationship between our administration and the city of Fall River is tight. We've worked together on a lot of things. We've worked together in good times on a lot of matters of economic development under Mayor Coogan's great leadership. And what I pledge is that we'll do whatever we can. I've been in touch with our Secretariats of Health and Human Services and of Public Safety. Right now, the first order of business is to make sure we're assisting the city in any way possible in rehousing what is a vulnerable population. The city's done a great job of getting folks immediately last night. to the center for shelter, where they've already had food, had their medication. That's a work in progress. However, we can be helpful. The majority, if not all of these folks, are mass health recipients, and so working with our agencies and all to see what we can do is what we're looking at right now. And of course, DFS, the fire marshal's office, is involved separately in looking at and reviewing the cause and the extent of this fire.
What is it like just looking at the scenes?
What areas you'll be looking at for the condition of the facility, any kind of outstanding problems they have? Can you speak about like what areas you're going to be looking at in terms of the condition of the facility? You know, whether it was up to code, whether things were working or not working. I know it's too early to say exactly, but like what areas are you going to be focusing on?
Well, it's very early in the review process, and I'll leave you to speak directly with the fire marshal about the scope of his investigation, but needless to say, it's something that we'll look at all of that. But again, it's much too early to offer any answers at this time, but DFS will be sure to keep everyone apprised.
What is it like actually looking at the damage, seeing all of this in person? What's going through your head as you're looking at all this?
I appreciate, the mayor and I were talking early this morning, and I'd obviously seen some of the pictures from the media and the videos, but to see it up close, you can smell it right now still, and this is hours after our tremendous teams put the fire out. It's horrifying to think about what happened in the middle of the night in the dark. People just scrambling as best they could to get out through windows, the firefighters coming up ladders, hauling people down in any way possible to get them out of the building, the panic. It's so heartbreaking and so sad, and something you never want to see. And all I can say is that I'm heartbroken for the individuals who perished in this, and I'm heartbroken for their families and for their friends and loved ones. I'm grateful that we have, this is government though at work. The men and women who show up and answer the call, in the middle of the night to put out a fire and to rescue people and to save lives. Just really, really struck by those acts of public service, and just so grateful that the teams were able to act so quickly, so swiftly. And were it not for that, we would have seen an unimaginable loss of life here, given the vulnerability of this population. And I think that's what strikes me. That's what folks need to understand. This was not a situation where teams arrived and people were able to get out easily. All of these people needed assistance. As you saw, many were in wheelchairs, many were immobile, many had oxygen tanks. They were severely compromised individuals in this assisted living facility, which made it all the more challenging. And you can imagine a fire raging. You're dealing with a smoke inhalation, which we know was devastating. 5 of our guys had to be treated at the hospital, but just how precarious this was with oxygen tanks, so many of them on, and the presence of fire. It's unbelievable that there wasn't an even greater loss of life. And I just think it speaks to, the training and the preparedness of the first responders, the fact that so many people were able to get shelter, nourishment, blankets, medication. That's tremendous coordination by the mayor, Mayor Coogan, and his leadership and his teams, and that very much continues as we speak.
Governor Healey, is the state aware of any previous safety complaints by this assisted living facility?
Not at this time, but again, we haven't had a full opportunity to look into everything.
Do you have any firm numbers about how many people remain in the hospital at this time?
I don't have that number right now.
I think I know that 8 is such books.
8 is something.
I'm not sure.
Chief, we've seen a number of red boxes being brought out of the building. What's in those boxes?
Those are the patient's medication boxes. We're doing everything we can to get those out of the building and disposed of properly. Obviously, they've been tainted by whatever smoke and other products of combustion that were in the building. So those boxes are going to be, the medication is going to be removed and disposed of.
Is that what the been challenges in the operation?
I'm sorry?
Is describe some of the main challenges during the rescue?
Yeah, I think it's in a facility like this with assisted living, like we've said, and like the governor said, the people in this building need help to perform daily functions, let alone to escape during an emergency situation. So that is the largest challenge that we had, was that everybody in this building requires some form of help to get them out of the building. It's a super labor intensive and manpower intensive operation, and we're just so proud of the police, fire, and EMS that we're able to do that under extreme circumstances last night. I've been remiss in not mentioning Chief Rick Aguiar of Fall River Emergency Management. Within an hour, he had everybody who was not transported to a hospital in buses and moved to that shelter. He does a tremendous job with emergency planning in the city. With his, he always says that I do a lot of work in evacuations that will never see the light of day. And last night was testament that the work that he puts into this got those people safely to a place where they could be safe and sheltered for the night. So his people, he has a large group of volunteers that were here throughout the night to make sure that those people were taken care of. And they also provide rehab for the first responders to make sure that we have water and we're monitored and we can perform our job. So I apologize for not mentioning him earlier, but between the State Fire Marshal's office, the state police fire investigation unit, the code compliance division, there was a tremendous teamwork between state assets and local assets here last night that really brought the positive outcome that we had. Again, I say positive outcome wholeheartedly knowing that 9 people did not make it last night, but also knowing that that could have been 39, 49, or 59 without everybody who was here to perform the rescues and make sure that everybody was transported and treated properly.
Some of us missed the morning briefing. Can you tell us what happened here for those of us who missed it?
Sure, just briefly. So at about a little after 9:30 last night, we responded to an automatic fire alarm at this location behind me, Gabriel House. First crews on scene reported fully involved structure. We had flames coming from that front door behind me. Initial attack lines were brought to knock the fire down, but at the same time, there were multiple victims hanging out the windows, screaming and begging for help and to be rescued. So we knocked down the fire quickly, then all available assets were moved towards rescuing the individuals that needed help. And that's not just fire, it was police. Typically, police don't perform that function, but they did a tremendous job last night, and they saved countless lives in assisting the people that they could out of the building. EMS did an incredible job. They were set up right in this parking lot over here, triaging and getting the patients that needed the most care moved to the facilities that were appropriate for their level of care, while also treating the people that they could treat on scene and releasing them so that they wouldn't burden the hospital systems in the area. So it really was something that we planned for, hoping to never have to use. But I'm so glad that we do train for it, and I think it worked well last night.
Where in the building were people rescued from? Were they all
Everywhere.
in their rooms? Or?
Everywhere. So every room, so 9:30 at night on a Sunday night, everyone was probably in their room either sleeping or getting ready to sleep. So what I envision in my head is that the building filled up with smoke. I also know that there's a lot of false alarms in this building. There's a lot of people that burn toast, that burn food. And so the fire alarms go off and they say, oh, that's just so-and-so burning their food again. And then by the time you open the door and hear people screaming that there's a fire, you can't go anywhere because of smoke. And I talked a little bit about smoke safety this morning, and that's the message. That's really what we need to preach. And if there's a silver lining, or if there's a lesson we can learn from this, is be vigilant about smoke safety, smoke detectors, and pay attention to them. They're there for a reason. In the 1970s, thousands of people died in this country annually. And since then, since we've put in smoke detectors and mandated them through legislation in single-family and multifamily homes, those numbers have drastically reduced, and there's a reason for that. So pay attention to your smoke detectors and know that smoke kills more people than fire ever will.
Were there additional measures in place here in the building? The elevator not working? Sorry. Can you speak to any past inspections or reports?
I have no reports of an elevator not working, and if that were the case, I think they rely on the elevator here. I can't imagine that that's the case.
Are there additional measures in place in this building, knowing the vulnerability of the people? Are there additional checks done here on things like sprinklers, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're held to the same standard as any nursing or hospital care facility in the city. They are quarterly inspected and compliant. So those inspections are done by our department, by DPH. So we'll have more information on if there were any issues with those, but as of right now, I don't have that information. So spread throughout. If you can imagine, smoke moves everywhere. Smoke, it's kind of like water. It just follows the path of least resistance. So smoke was everywhere in this building, from top to bottom and left to right. So we had victims literally. I mean, if this were a typical apartment house, we wouldn't have had as many victims because people would be able to self-evacuate. But because once those people found and there was smoke in the hallway, those victims weren't moving. They were right where they were. So they were everywhere in the building.
Most died from smoke inhalation?
What's that?
Most died.
I can't speak to that. I don't have any of those reports.
Something appears to be suspicious at this point.
I can't speak to that either.
I mean, what are you looking at? What would be
That's the investigators looking at it between the Fall River Fire Department and the state office. So we're again very early on in the investigation, and one of the most dangerous things that we can do is speculate. Speculation can really sink an investigation. So we want to stay as far away from speculation as we can.
This is a multiple floor of the facility, Dennis, at Thorne, and have you ever talked to them about kind of next steps?
No, I have not yet.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. If there's any more information, like I said earlier, we're going to prepare a press release to send out to everybody this afternoon with all the details that we discussed. And if there's anything major, I promise that we will call another press conference, maybe at our headquarters. But we will let you know before we do anything. We appreciate you guys being here. Thank you.
All right, so the governor there making her presence known on the scene, pledging her full support to the city. See her patting the fire chief there on the back. The smoke, the fire chief said, was top to bottom, left to right. So that really gives you an idea of what they were up against for sure. And also something I took away from that press conference, Tammy, was he said most everybody needed help getting out of their rooms.
Right.
Like, this was not a situation where people could just get up and get out, which makes it so tragic. I think Gabrielle is ready for a few questions for us. Gabrielle, when it comes to funding, the governor did confirm that she has a tight relationship with the city, so that's promising news at this stage in the investigation and with getting everybody the help they need. What did you think of the governor's response?
Yeah, a lot of this is too early to say, so we don't know exactly where some of that help will be coming from, how people are going to get that help. But she said she wanted to come out, assess the situation for herself. She was only here for a minute or two before she came over to speak, but she's now, still talking with the mayor and the fire chief over closer to this damage. And so there is still a lot of details, I think, that have yet to be worked out as to where some of that assistance from the state is going to come from. But she, I think, by making her presence known here in person this morning and pledging that assistance, she wants to reassure people that the state is going to do whatever they can to help, as there are so many people now still in the hospital and many more that are just displaced because they cannot live here at the Gabriel house anymore.
Gabrielle, is the owner still there at this point, or has he left? Because we do know that he was there for a majority of the morning working with the investigators on this fire.
Yeah, I don't see the owner here right now. They did mention during one of the earlier press briefings that he may be going over to the Tomeo Center, where those residents who are not in the hospital, people who were not injured, or maybe were able to just be treated on scene, they're over at the Tomeo Center. It's about a half-mile away here in Fall River. And they did mention earlier that he was going to go over there to speak with those surviving residents. I don't know if he has done so yet, but we haven't seen him at the moment. The governor you just heard said she hadn't spoken to him as she's leaving right now. I don't believe that he is currently on scene, but we do have crews here now getting ready, starting to board up some of these windows.
Yeah, you can see them boarding up actually right during the press conference as well. So they're moving pretty quickly this morning. The fire came in 9:30 last night. Here we are at 11:20, and they are literally putting up the boards as we speak, because this is also a very vulnerable section of the city too, with that building being destroyed like that. So they want to make sure that they keep people out. Interesting though, they did say they had to get rid of a lot of the medications because they were affected by the smoke as well. And the priority right now is also about rehousing this vulnerable population. So that's happening right now too. And the governor assuring the city family and friends of those there, that they will do whatever it takes to support the city. Also stressing that as tragic as this has been this morning, Tammy, it could have been a lot worse at the same time, considering people were really fragile and not able to get in and out of those rooms quickly when the smoke alarms. It sounds like they did go off from what we can tell.
Yeah.
So.
And, you know, when you think about it, a city like Fall River, they have that level of staffing at their fire department. It would be terrifying if this happened in a smaller location. I think the issue with press conferences often is we want all of our questions answered immediately. We want to know, were there any code violations? Did the sprinkler system work? Did all of the fire alarms go off at the same time? But, you know, as the governor kind of said, they're looking into all of that. So we're also asking questions ourselves. I just filed a few public records requests to get information on what were the staffing levels like, because if there was...
And what's legal and what's not, and even if it is legal, is that okay? These are all things we'll be digging into for sure.
I'm still looking into the air conditioning units. You know, I know you mentioned that it's an older building, so was... you know, central air even an option.
It's not unusual to have an AC outside of the window, but were they installed correctly? Right. And were they up to
should
code?
that be an option if you're dealing with a vulnerable population?
Right. Maybe not. So again, that might be one of those issues where it was legal, but probably not a best practice. So we're going to see about all of that as we keep going through. But they are starting to board up the building right now. They did say they got all the medical records out. People are receiving shelter and food and new medication if they need it. So it sounds like that part of it is happening pretty quickly and on time right now. We do want to stress that the number on your screen is still active and available for you, 508-674-5741. That's the Family Notification Center for St. Anne's Hospital. There's kind of 4 hospitals working together to help the victims in this fire, but St. Anne's is pretty much the primary one who's doing all the reunification work, but also treating many of the victims. Smoke is the real issue here as well. All right, we're getting some news in from Representative Jake Auchincloss. Tammy, I'll give this to you.
He says, this is posted to X, he says, I mourn for the 9 Fall River residents who died in last night's fire, and I'm keeping the over 30 hospitalized residents in my thoughts, wishing them a full recovery. Thank you to the firefighters and first responders who prevented an even greater tragedy. Obviously, you know, everyone responding to this right now, just trying to gather their thoughts around what happened here. Like you mentioned, and like Rep. Auchincloss mentions, these people had to go door to door. These firefighters had to go door to door to rescue these residents. When you think about the manpower that requires, because the governor mentioned a lot of these people were not mobile themselves. And that also raises the question of whether they belonged in an assisted care facility or perhaps a nursing home.
It depends on how the intake system went. But yes, we had 35 first responders on the scene right away, and then they quickly obviously had to pull in more. Yeah, imagine smoke detectors going off. It's dark. Not everybody has access to a phone. Gene was saying in his research, he understood it to be mostly studio apartments. So that suggests that people were living like on their own and, you know, one person per unit. So yes, if there were 70 people in there, they had to go room by room to get people out. And 9:30 at, you know, in the middle of the night when this was coming through, you know, 9:30 at night, it's dark, it's quiet, and they had to really move. And then also, if those air conditioners were running too, if this wasn't like a quiet, brand new central HVAC system, all those ACs are running, and what did people hear and not hear?
If they're used to false alarms. They said they were used to false alarms that happen frequently.
Right, somebody burns their toast, smoke detectors go off, nobody moves because they think it's a false alarm. That's actually a takeaway from all of this, the fire chief saying smoke is the biggest danger. So while the fire, it sounds like, was confined mostly to that area we're looking at right now. When we think fire, we think flames, obviously, but it's really the smoke that sounds like it took over the building and what caused these casualties.
And we just got news that the Firefighters Union president will be speaking at some point on this. I'm curious to see what he has to say about, you know, not just the response. We know that firefighters did a fantastic job, but perhaps he could speak more to the code. Where, you know, was everything up to code? Were there any violations? Has this building had any violations in the past? Those are all questions that
and how many other buildings perhaps are owned by this group, this person, corporation, whatever it might be? Is it just in Massachusetts, or do they own other buildings in other states? So these are all the things that we'll be checking into as well. So as you can see, they're moving pretty quickly on the scene. These are live pictures. 11:25 in the morning. A reminder that this fire started around 9:30 last night. We brought it to you on Sunrise as breaking news, and it's just been unfolding more and more. But the number of deceased remains at 9. We do have 1 person in critical condition, more than 55 firefighters responding, 5 injured, minor injuries. It sounds like it was smoke related in some way, shape, or form, but the fire chief sounds pretty pretty good about the fact that they will be released from the hospital soon.
Yeah, he said that they have been released, that
Thank
they've
you.
been treated
Yes.
and released. We do know that one person you mentioned the 30 people who are in the hospital.
Yes.
One of those people is in critical condition at this time. The chief did not have any update on the rest of their conditions right now.
And we don't know ages either of the people who were taken out. So you were doing a little bit of research on
Mass.gov's official website.
Under 50.
Yes, so very interesting. I think it only said 13 people in total statewide were under 50 in assisted living facilities, but the age range is from under 50 to over 100.
Okay, so we're going to be checking in on that too when it comes to the victims and the survivors as well as we continue to update you on this deadly fire. We'll be back at noon.